It's like I've suddenly forgotten how to start a podcast. Hello. I got a text this morning from some kind of bot, and it was just all caps. Hello, not a text, an email. Hello, good morning. Greetings of the day.
Oh, let's start like that from now on. Hello, good morning.
Greetings of the day.
We are Witches, Magic, and Murder and Mystery podcast.
I'm Megan.
I'm Kara.
And
we've lost our minds.
Hello.
Hello.
Greetings.
Good morning. Top of the morning to you.
It's like an alien who's like, I don't know the right words to say, so insert your greeting of the day here, you know?
Or it's like where they forget to edit the email and it's like, hello, and then parentheses name.
Yeah. I get those from there's this, she's like a well-known blogger person, and I get marketing emails from her like that, and I'm always like, you're fancier than this. You should know better.
You should know better. Who does your marketing?
Yeah. What program are you paying for that is not inserting the names of people and it says hello?
Insert name. Here.
Yeah.
Oh, man. We're here.
We are here.
We're here.
With another episode. And we all survived Thanksgiving, and nobody seemed to get mad at me for the last week's episode, which I fully expected somebody to be like, what were you thinking?
Why would you say such things on the internet?
Also, guys, I don't know if you saw it, but I had the picture of, what's her name? Gwen?
No.
I want to say Gertrude.
Gertie.
I had it printed out whenever I did with the episode, and then we have a refrigerator in here. And so before I left, I folded it up and I stuck it in the refrigerator so that when Kara opened it, she would see it. And I was so pleased with myself.
She was.
And it took her days.
I don't hydrate enough, I guess.
Days to open the refrigerator before she finally saw it. But
she was so proud of herself.
Delighted when that finally paid off. So
it's great.
No,
That's
thanks.
great. I'm so proud of you. We're
Okay.
just little tricksters over here.
You said that like more. Little tricksters.
David.
What do we have for the episode? Okay, let's never do that again.
I don't know where you're from, but that's not.
That's Moira. That's how she talks. David.
Fold the cheese.
I can quote the whole thing.
Oh,
it's
for
just
sure.
insane.
I'm obsessed. Okay, so mine's a lighthearted one after yours.
Oh, good.
And I'm going to tuck this under mystery just because nobody really knows what this lady looks like. There's not many pictures of her, but she's a badass woman.
This is before the selfie times.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so remember in one of my episodes I was talking about the Pinkerton detectives? I think it was H.H. Holmes.
Yeah.
So, one of the first female detectives or private eyes is Kate Warne.
Nice.
She's a Pinkerton detective.
I love it.
Yes. Okay. So, Kate Warne, who died in 1868, left behind thrilling legacies that remain shrouded in mystery. She was a master of assumed identities, so no official photographs of her exist. It's fitting for a person whose profession was required in hiding in plain sight.
Nice.
I love her.
I think
So
it'd be so awesome to be like a spy. You know what I mean?
I know. Okay, and her being in 1868,
and a woman,
yeah,
doing this, yeah,
doing it hard
I like it. Doing it hard.
doing it up.
Okay.
She was born in 1833 in New York. She was the closest a woman could get into working in law enforcement. She was a prison matron. More than 50 years before the first female police officers, including Marie Owens from Chicago, Illinois, Lola Baldwin from Portland, Oregon, and Fanny Bigsby from Long Beach, California, would be sworn into their respective forces, and more than 100 years before New Hampshire State Police would appoint Frances Glessner Lee, the first female police captain in the U.S.
So our
she
lady,
blazed the trail.
our Kate here, was ahead of her time. Okay.
Yes. So by 1987, women would account for more than 7% of the force. Today, they represent more than a tenth of all United States law enforcement. Still a small, tiny percentage, but representation in a field where it was once unheard of.
Yeah.
Okay. So 1856, at the age of 23, her husband passed away, leaving her a widow. She found herself at loose ends with no way to support herself. She decided she was going to approach Alan Pinkerton. And she went to his office in Chicago and asked for a job as a detective. Can you imagine her just one day sitting up and being like, you know what?
Yeah, here's what I'd like to do.
I'm struggling financially. I'm not going to go work at like the market or anything. I want to be a detective.
Here's what I'm good at. I can get to the bottom of stuff.
I can hide myself.
Nobody knows what I look like. You don't even know what I look like. You're talking to me right now?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows? So it says Alan Pinkerton assumed she was there for clerical work, and she quickly explained that she's not. So to his surprise, she had responded to a newspaper advertisement for detectives. So according to Pinkerton in his book, The Spy of the Rebellion, his response was that employing women in the type of role was not customary. But what he would come to realize is that Warne had no interest in what was customary. She's like, no, sir.
She's fantastic. Well, also, it seems like it would be even better that way because no one would suspect that she's investigating. Like, they that's a woman. She's not smart enough.
She can't do that.
Yeah.
She's just a little fancy
She's just here to look pretty.
She's just a fancy woman. So it said, working her way into places she wasn't supposed to be ended up being one of Warren's greatest strengths. Oh. Although Pinkerton had many women working for him as clerks and secretaries, he'd never hired a female detective, claiming it was not the custom to do so. So despite his initial skepticism, Pinkerton was soon charmed by Warren's manner. She offered up the many potential merits of female detective, from her ability to manipulate targets into believing that she was on their side in a way that men could not. So she was like, hey, I'm here for you. Twirling her hair. Yeah. Like putting her little hand under, her dainty little hand under her chin.
You would never suspect otherwise.
Let me listen.
I'm a lady.
You know no better.
Idiot.
She's like, dumbass. So in Pinkerton's later accounts, Warren made a convincing argument. She spoke eloquently and noted that women could be most useful in worming out secrets in many places, which would be impossible for a male detective. Warren pointed out that a woman would be able to befriend the wives and girlfriends of suspected criminals and gain their confidence, adding that men often brag around women and that women have a better eye for detail and observation. Pinkerton, who later described her as a commanding person, whose intellectual and honest features made her seem like a good, confident. So he hired her, making her the first female detective in the U.S.
I love this.
I love it so much. I was like, this is so feel good.
I like to think, if I was like somebody who lived back in that time period, that this is like the kind, I don't know if I would have been brave enough to be the first detective. But you know what I mean? Like the whole thing of like living in the role they've set for you and having to like, you just sit at home.
And you're taught that mindset, like a woman can't do this.
Yeah.
A woman shouldn't do this.
I feel like I would have just withered away and died in that.
Yeah.
You know, when all it's like, you're supposed to sit at home and bake things and needlepoint. And it's like, okay. I mean, not that I love those things. I do like, you know, baking things and sewing and all that. But that's like, there's so many other things I like that would not have been accepted.
That's not considered feminine.
This being one of them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Let's sit around and talk about murder every week.
It's fine.
It's fine.
That's fine.
It's normal.
We're normal. Okay. So 2 years after she was hired, Warren scored her first major case. She was sent to investigate reports of embezzlement with an important client's staff. Adams Express Company, still operating today as an equity fund company. It was a freight carrier running throughout the North and South in the mid-1800s. The Pinkerton Agency had first worked with the company to solve a robbery in 1866. So now they called upon them to find who, in their own ranks, was stealing from the company's bankrolls. Upon her arrival, she befriended Mrs. Maroney, the wife of an expressman believed to be the culprit. Soon, Mrs. Maroney trusted Kate and confided in her, so much so that Kate was not able to prove Nathan Maroney's guilt, but that she was not only able to prove Nathan Maroney's guilt, but also track down almost 40 of the 50,000 that had been stolen.
Nice.
Yes. So by 1860, it became obvious to the Pinkertons that not only Kate was valuable to them, but more female operatives, as he preferred to term his detectives.
Operatives.
Would be as well. He opened a female detective bureau and put Warren in charge. Love it. So, of course, by this time, talk of slavery, the succession had begun to dominate the country. The election of Abraham Lincoln in November did little to diffuse the tension.
What?
Yeah.
What's that like? What's that like when the political world is very dividing?
Like,
Who knows?
We're back. It's 2020. We're back in 1860.
Oh,
where's Lincoln?
I don't know.
Is anybody related to Lincoln? Can we?
God.
So Pinkerton dispatched Warne and 4 other agents to investigate succession threats and activities against Philadelphia, Wilmington, and Baltimore Railroad. Comparing their field reports, Pinkerton believed his agents were close to finding something far bigger than agitation. So President-elect Lincoln was to be assassinated in Baltimore en route to his inauguration.
Oh.
So
I said that like I didn't know. Oh. I had no idea that happened. What?
I never knew about this in my history books. David.
It's like any time now we just slip into Moira. He was assassinated.
And she's like in her closet
with her wigs.
High as a kite. Okay, so she used various aliases, including Miss Cherry and Miss Barley, posed as a sympathizer and a wealthy Southerner. To her marks, she seemed a typical rich Southern lady with a thick Southern accent.
Nice.
I love it. She probably didn't even have a normal Southern accent. She's from New York.
No, I'm sure she had a terrible, like, in the same way that, like, you know, Nicole Kidman, when she does a Southern accent, it's like, dude,
what are you doing? But people believed it.
Yeah. Well, all they think is Southerners talk funny, and so you can get by with whatever you want to.
I was in Tennessee one time, and somebody was like, "Where are y'all from? Up north?" And I was like, "Is Kentucky north enough for you?" And she was like, "I guess so. You ain't talk like us." And I was like, "Okay, sounds good, ma'am."
When I went to New York, people were like, "Say this, say that," and I'm like, "Okay, my accent's not even that bad, you guys." But
yeah, don't you know?
Do you guys know that when we talk about Moya, we're talking about Schitt's Creek?
I'm obsessed.
In my head, everybody knows Schitt's Creek, but if you don't,
go watch it and tell us.
Oh my God.
We'll watch it with you.
I'm just going to go watch it all the time anyway, but like,
we
do
can
yourself
go
a
on
favor.
The couch after this episode.
God, it's the best. It's the best show. It's the best.
I just want to watch Patrick sing to David all
Same.
day long.
Okay,
or the episode where Patrick's in the play.
Yes.
He's so good.
He's great. Oh, he's great. So anway, if you don't know of Schitt's Creek, that has absolutely nothing to do with this episode, except
it really doesn't. Our accents.
We like to be Moira.
This year 2020, we are Moira.
We are Moira.
We're channeling Moira Rose. Okay. So it was in this role that Warne would get the case that would come to define her personal career and forever change the way female detectives were regarded in the U.S. It was 1861 that Samuel H. Felton, the president of Philadelphia, Wilmington, and Baltimore Railroad, heard rumors of the activity in Maryland. In hopes of uncovering potential threats to his railroad, he brought in Pinkerton, the leading private detective agency at the time. But when Pinkerton himself went to Baltimore to investigate, he found the danger was much bigger than neither he or Felton had initially thought. So, as such, requested permission to continue the investigation, but shift focus to an assassination plot he believed was being planned. So, in February of that year, Warne was one of 5 agents chosen in Maryland to further investigate, and it became known as the Baltimore Plot. Warne was again sent undercover, laying on a thick accent. She was a Southern belle visiting Baltimore, going by aliases. Under this pretense, Warne was able to successfully infiltrate the Baltimore secessionist movement and not only verify the Lincoln assassination plot, but uncover key details. According to Warne, the secessionist plan was to ambush Lincoln when he was transferring trains in Baltimore. After a 70-city tour leading up to his inauguration, the logistics of the Baltimore plot allegedly included a staged fight meant to distract the police, a group of attackers laying in wait, and a steamer waiting nearby to assure the culprits to safety. That's like, can you imagine trying to plan all that?
It seems like Ocean's 11.
Yes.
It's very detailed.
Yes.
But I guess if you're planning something to assassinate the president, it'd have to be pretty involved.
Yeah. So Pinkerton now had to arrange Lincoln's safe passage to Washington, which would not be as easy as it sounded. Lincoln had 3 engagements in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, that he refused to cancel. Being the tall and distinct man that he was, Lincoln stood out in a crowd, obviously, with his giant-ass hat.
And he's also the president of the United States.
Yeah.
People know who he is.
Yeah, so they created a plan. Once finished with his Harrisburg engagements, Pinkerton, Warne, and Ward Hill Lamon, the president-elect's self-appointed bodyguard, disguised Lincoln as an invalid. Warne played the role of the invalid's sister. To conceal changes in Lincoln's itinerary, Pinkerton arranged a temporary telegraph fault, forestalling any warning to the conspirators. Can you imagine just, like, her pushing him in a wheelchair and, like, Him acting a hot mess.
Yeah, I really, really love it.
So Warne was central to uncovering and defeating the conspiracy with her travel arrangements, seeing Lincoln to safety to his destination. It was said that she never rested during the entire journey, constantly watching over Lincoln and supposedly inspiring the Pinkerton Agency's now legendary motto, "We never sleep." Because she didn't.
Yeah. I love that she's like the first one, and she was also great at it.
Yeah.
Know? Like she did really important work.
She's creating the path for these men as well. Like she's showing them up left and right.
Yeah. Like she is responsible for what became their motto.
Yeah.
Because of her behavior.
She saved
and
Lincoln's
work ethic.
life.
I mean, it's like, sometimes you hear about the first woman, and it seems more symbolic than anything because it's just whatever. But this is really cool.
Yeah, I love her.
Me too.
But we don't know what she looks like, really.
But that's even better.
I know. She's a
You know
mystery.
that I don't want to get on too much of a tangent, but the Unsolved Mysteries episode that with the lady who's found dead in the hotel room.
Yes.
Okay. Because I'm like, sure. I'm like, well, obviously she was a secret operative.
Yeah.
So that's all I keep thinking about is how like this is that woman is the kind of woman that this woman was, where she's like
all the aliases.
She is whoever you need her to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So it says that the protection that Warne and Pinkerton provided to Lincoln during this time became the foundation of a long relationship between the private detective agency and the 16th president. So he used them often. When the American Civil War started in April 1861, Pinkerton wrote to Lincoln offering his services, not realizing General George B. McClellan was already planning to ask them to lead in what became the Union's first centralized military intelligence agency. By the end of July 1861, Pinkerton and his top detectives, including Warne, had set up the headquarters of the Union Intelligence to the Union service
to the Revolution
service in Cincinnati, Ohio, and began conducting undercover espionage operations, marking the very beginnings of what would eventually evolve into the CIA. She's so badass. Warne, by then promoted to the position of female superintendent of detectives, was also thought to have been Pinkerton's mistress, and during these operations often posed as his wife. Working closely both with Pinkerton and Timothy Webster, another of the agency's top detectives and spies, Warne was able to gather intel by charming her way into Southern social circles and events. So she must have really sounded Southern.
She had to.
If the Southerners were like, okay, yeah, you're a part of us.
I mean, we're assuming she's great at everying else.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't she be
Why
great
wouldn't
at
she?
it?
Yeah.
Just because I can't do accents.
We pretend to, okay?
Well, I'll never admit that again.
No, don't
Otherwise,
say that
I
out
am
loud.
fantastic at
Don't
accents.
say that.
I just sound like a Kentuckian trying to be something else. Anytime I try to do another accent,
That's what we do. So, though she continued to set the standard for her field, Warne was no longer the only female spy conducting espionage during the Civil War. She had, by this point, successfully paved the way for other women, many of which who worked under Warne herself as Pinkerton's first female detective bureau.
Oh, I love it. I also really like the idea when she first started of how many men, when they found out, like, she was a detective. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I got screwed over by a woman.
Yeah. Excuse me, what?
Yeah.
And then, like, so she's working with Pinkerton, but then he also has, like, another top male, but it mentions her first and then him.
Yeah.
So Pinkerton was like, yeah, I'm hiring this woman.
Yeah.
She's badass.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. I love it.
I like it when people underestimate and then get proven wrong, you know?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And then, like, encourage it.
Yeah.
It's so good. Warren's work didn't end with the start of the Civil War in 1861, although its tenure shifted. Alongside George Bangs, an English-born spy with Timothy Webster, she was sent to establish a forward intelligence base in Cincinnati, like I mentioned. She used a dozen or more aliases. She worked as a spy and also continued her work as the superintendent of female detectives. When she wasn't down south doing her Southern Belle accent, she was lucky, but Webster wasn't. Unmasked as a Union agent, Webster was hanged in Richmond on April 29th, 1862. Of course, the need for agents and qualified detectives didn't end with the Civil War, and Warren's undercover work continued long after the Union prevailed. During the post-war era, God bless America, Warren worked a series of high-profile cases, including the murder of bank teller George Gordon, who had been killed during a robbery. Once Pinkerton identified the main suspect, Warren was sent in undercover to befriend the man's wife. Through this relationship, was able to obtain a confession and discover where the culprit had hidden the stolen money. Warne was tapped for a case brought to Pinkerton by Captain J.N. Sumner, a seaman who'd come to believe that his sister and her lover were trying to poison him. In an impressive performance, Warne posed as a fortune teller to get information from the captain's sister.
This just sounds so freaking fun.
Like a fortune teller.
Yeah.
And it says the ruse revealed not only the attempts to kill her brother, but that her lover had already successfully done the same to his former wife.
Dang.
While investigating the Sumner case, she still spent time out of the field coordinating Pinkerton's Bureau of Female Agents. So she is not only questioning these people as like a fortune teller, she's going back and teaching these female agents how to be
so she's still working in the field while
people.
also teaching. I also like the idea of like, okay, you've got this situation. Somebody comes to you, they want you to solve their case, and then you have to figure out like, okay, like what role am I going to play this time? And it's like, I'll be a fortune teller. I swear.
Yes, like how did she? And Pinkerton's just like, yeah, you do you.
Yeah.
You do you. You're good at it.
Yeah. I would have so much fun with that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And how like she's being a fortune teller, but then like the next day she has to go back and do her normal thing.
Yeah.
But then go back a couple hours later and be a fortune teller or whatever, a Southern Belle or whatever.
Yeah. I always think that with anybody who works undercover, I always think like it must be so hard to go back and forth. You know? And
like
also,
at what point do you absorb that other personality?
Right. Yeah. Especially depending
you?
on what world you're having to live in.
Yeah. Oh God. Okay, before hiring on the female detectives, Pinkerton would tell female applicants, in my service, you will serve your country better than on the field. I have several female operatives. If you agree to come aboard, you will go in training with the head of my female detectives, Kate Warne. She has never let me down. I love it so much. She was given a new title, Supervisor of Female Agents. Warne was set for a long, high-flying career with Pinkerton. Already America's first female detective, she'd also served she saved President-elect from assassination. She had become a senior private detective years before women were allowed to join police force in uniform, never mind as a detective. She was a trailblazer and sadly a shooting star that burned out too quickly. So in January of 1868, Kate contracted a lung infection, possibly pneumonia. Unable to combat it, it spread and there were no antibiotics yet. She died on January 28th. She was just 34 or 35 years old.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
She was so young.
She was so young. So today she rests in the famed Graceland Cemetery in Chicago. She was buried at the Pinkerton plot, although her last name remains misspelled as W-A-R-N instead of W-A-R-N-E, despite the indignity.
They misspelled her name.
Yeah, in the family plot.
Jeez.
Yeah. So despite that, she was deeply a memorable woman whom Pinkerton named as one of his best 5 detectives of all time.
Oh, I love it.
Yep.
That's such a good story.
Yeah. To this day, Warne remains a key figure in the conversation around women in law enforcement, a pioneer who forever changed the role of women in the field that once exclusively open to men. She would likely be proud to hear more than 10% of the force is now female, but knowing Warne isn't one to settle, she'd also characterize the battle as not being over. Perhaps it never will be, but it's a lot easier to fight because of Warne.
Nice.
And then Pinkerton wrote a book, and he not only thanked her, but consistently referred to her as his best detective, and a testament to both their professional and personal relationships.
Oh, that's so great.
I know.
That's a good one.
I love it so much.
And there's no pictures of her.
No.
Isn't that crazy?
I can share, like, the picture of, like, the Pinkerton and Detective Agency, like, logo or whatever.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking about how
What
it's like...
would she look like?
The only way you know she exists is because...
Pinkerton.
Of her reputation.
Yeah, and he loved her so much that he wanted to carry on her legacy.
She could so easily be forgotten if somebody didn't carry it on.
Yeah, and just imagine, like, those women that she had trained before she passed, and then those women training other women and telling her story. Oh, it gives me chills.
It's so good.
I know.
It's so good. Yeah, it's a great one. I love that.
I love it. It was a short story, but it was so good.
Yeah, well, and like you said, after last week, it's good to have something a little bit happier and easier.
Yes, heartfelt.
Yeah, good job. I love her.
Thanks. Badass woman.
I've never heard of her, so that's exciting.
I love her so much.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for listening to us. If you like this episode, share with your friends.
Yeah. We've started getting emails.
Oh, we have it.
It's so
excited
fun.
about
People
it.
are sending in their local stories. And so, like we've said a few times, it doesn't have to be a Kentucky story.
No.
We do... I purposely look out for stories around Kentucky and
Because
and
it's
like
fun for us. Yeah.
yeah, Indiana, Tennessee, like surrounding areas. But really, whatever
we
your
don't like
local
to sleep,
story is.
really.
No, I never sleep. I quit sleeping. Why? There's
Why would
so
you
much
sleep?
to do.
Yeah.
Feel free to send us whatever your local story is, because if you have a personal connection to it, that makes it so much more interesting. And those of you that have sent us stories, we are working on them.
Yes.
I'm really excited.
I'm very excited. So you can send those to witches, magic, murder, and mystery at gmail.com.
Yes,
Or
it's just those 4 words,
witches,
no and.
magic, murder, mystery
Yeah.
at gmail.com. And then you can send it to our Instagram page as well. You can DM us.
Yeah, which is also Witches, Magic, Murder, Mystery.
Super easy.
See how consistent that is?
We love to stick to
Oh my
one
gosh.
thing.
All right, you guys, thanks for listening.
And we'll see you next week.
Yep,
Bye.
bye.